Taxes was feeling so stuck. Sitting in traffic, squeezing into a parking spot, all to squeeze in getting tax help during your lunch break. Now Taxes is a TurboTax expert who does your taxes for you, while you go about your day getting real-time notifications about their progress and the most money back guaranteed. Now this is Taxes. Intuit TurboTax. See guarantee details at turbotax.com/guarantees. Only available with TurboTax experts. Real-time.
Good afternoon. T-Dot's working with a couple of accidents out here. It still wants to run a little bit slow from time to time. 65 north up by Rivergate Parkway. Hopefully that will start to clear out here in the next few minutes. Not bad, actually. I can't believe I'm saying that. On 24 East out through Antioch towards Murfreesboro, but lots of radar out here. Please be careful tonight and don't drink and drive. Hey, when you need dependable towing for your car and truck, call STR Towing and Recovery here in Middle Tennessee. I'm Commander Chuck with your on-time traffic.
Premier 6 Theater on Broad in Jackson Heights.
Let's all go to the movies.
Check out what's showing at murfreesboromovies.com. Popcorn popped fresh daily.
Movies at the good old Premier.
Premier 6 on Broad in Jackson Heights.
Rutherford weather.
See a few clouds pushing through tonight. The temperatures bottom out around 29. Lots of sunshine into New Year's Day and a high around 54. Thursday night, partly cloudy, low of 35. I'm meteorologist Regina Kroll from the WGNS Rutherford Weather Center. Right now, it's 50 degrees.
We do it your way at Sir Pizza.
You can order Murfreesboro's favorite pizza online, sirpizzatn.com. Carry out and delivery for dinner tonight at sirpizzatn.com.
We're the Good Neighbor Network, FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro, FM 100.5 Smyrna, audio and video streaming at wgnsradio.com.
From the first pitch to the final buzzer, this is where the conversation starts. All sports talk on WGNS and Big G TV, covering the Preps, MTSU, news from Tennessee and nationwide. Now, here's All Sports Talk on the Good Neighbor Network.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back inside the WGNS studios. Happy holidays and Happy New Year's Eve. Dylan Simmons with you on a beautiful Wednesday afternoon here in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, quickly turning into Wednesday evening. And this, of course, is All Sports Talk right here on the Good Neighbor Network. And hope everybody had a good holiday season. It was a lot of fun for me personally. I was up in North Carolina for the last week or so. We got up there probably the day after Christmas, if I'm not mistaken, and stayed out there for a few days. Got to ride a train, got to ski for the first time, got to see a lot of cool stuff up there in Bryson City, North Carolina. So it was a really entertaining time, and hopefully your holiday season was the same. I saw a lot of people very excited about Christmas, of course, as well you should be, and all the gifts and holiday spirit that everybody had. So I think all in all, it's safe to say that this year Christmas was a great success for everybody, and the holiday season has been that as well. And it's also been a success because, of course, the world of sports has kept going round and round. There's been a lot of developments, a lot of stuff that has happened since the last time we talked, which I think was December 17th. So it's been a couple weeks, but excited to get back on the ball with tonight's episode. We're going to start things off with MTSU men's basketball, and that's been a big talking point among people in Murfreesboro, I'd say, over the past couple days, and really since the month of November started, because this team has been a really fun team to keep an eye on and to keep track of. And, of course, they had a big game against number 8 Houston on Monday night on the road just 4 days after Christmas. Now, we had talked about this game for a long time beforehand, I think it's fair to say, because this is a game that really could determine the rest of MTSU's season and was going to be a fantastic gauge of where they were going to be throughout the rest of 2025, moving into 2026. It was really Houston and Michigan were the two out-of-conference games, the big out-of-conference games that were circled because they were against such quality opponents. And I think it's fair to say that both times that MTSU faced off against a high-quality opponent of that caliber, they played them and played them pretty well. So let's go over exactly what happened and talk about what took place on Monday night. I think overall it was a fun outing. MTSU putting up a great effort, coming up just a little bit short. Final score was 69-60. There are a few things that really stick out to me from this game that I think are worth going over as we get further on into the show. The first half was really competitive, pretty evenly matched between these two teams. a lot of people may assume that since Houston was at home, they were going to be able to get off to a quicker start, especially with some of the experience that those players have. Those players have been in March Madness multiple times. Some have been, I think, in Final Fours or at least close to it. So they have a lot of players who know how to get the job done in high-intensity, high-impact situations, especially at home. But MTSU was able to hang with them in the early going, and I think that was as much, not so much of a surprise, but a welcome thing as anything else, was that MTSU was able to withstand kind of the opening blow, if you catch my drift, that Houston had to offer. We saw 10 lead changes and 3 ties in the first, I'd say, 15 minutes of the first half. So it was, in many ways, kind of evenly matched, you could say, at the start. And that, to me, just goes to show, and we'll get more into this later, but MTSU, for periods of time, it seems like they can hang with some of these great teams when they're playing at their peak. So this was a really good testament to the preparation that Nick McDevitt and MTSU had been doing, especially to keep those athletes tuned in during the Christmas season, the holiday season, to keep them dialed in. I know it's a big game, but that takes a lot of impact and a lot of expertise. So credit to Nick McDevitt and the coaching staff for being able to do that. I think the thing about this Houston team is that they can go on scoring runs like a lightning strike. We've already seen that throughout the season so far. That's kind of what they did at the midway point in the first half. They got a 10-point scoring run, and that's really all they needed to get a little bit of separation from the Blue Raiders. Now, this would have been an idle and a pretty good opportunity for MTSU to end up kind of letting the game slip away, not staying as competitive, and, not really openly thinking it, but in the back of your mind being like, well, we hung with them for a little while, that's probably good enough. But they didn't do that. They stepped up, showed out, and again, they answered the call, and that's, again, a testament to the competitive spirit that this Blue Raider basketball team has, that they can get in those situations and continue to play good basketball. And they got some three-point shots. They got some momentum. The defense started to step up. They had 4 straight scoring possessions. And before you knew it, towards the end of the half, it's a 2-point ball game once again. Going into the locker room, it was 33-28, Cougars on top of the Blue Raiders. And, I think this isn't being talked about enough, but Houston in that first half only scoring 33. That's only the second time that's happened this season. And that's tied for their lowest scoring output in a men's basketball game this season. So they don't really do that a lot in one half of basketball. They're usually a pretty high-scoring team. But this Blue Raider defense gave them some problems, especially early on. So you got to credit MTSU for being able to kind of hold Houston back to some degree and not let them run away with this basketball game, especially with how inclined they are to go on those big scoring runs. It paid dividends once again right here. And that great defense that they displayed really helped them to keep themselves in this game. And that's been something that Nick McDevitt has talked about, is that this defense has been looking to improve itself as the season has gone on game over game. We saw some improvement against Kennesaw State, and we really see it here against Houston in this one. So really impressive job by the MTSU men's team of being able to hold them to 33 points in the first half. Now, the second half was a bit of a different story. We saw the Raiders give up a few big scoring runs, and they got down by as much as 16 points at one point in the second half. And I think this is where Houston's explosive offense and their three-point shooting really started to help them out. The biggest thing that you've got to keep in mind, and I'm sure that Nick McDevitt would tell you this as well, when you're playing a Kelvin Sampson team, it should be noted that they're going to try to use their opportunities wisely no matter the case they're in. This was no different, and it helped them to really get that gap kind of widened out against MTSU. Raiders have a great team, a phenomenal team offensively, we would say. But it's hard for anyone to match up to that level of consistency no matter the case. That's the thing with Houston. They can almost suffocate you with their consistency, and we saw it again right here with what the Cougars were able to do. Raiders couldn't really keep in mind, or rather keep in the same lane as Houston after that happened. But again, they refused to quit as this game moved on. We've seen at different points this year MTSU not give up. We saw it again right here. As I previously mentioned, Lands and Oglesby nailed some shots from deep. We saw what might be surprising to some is that when you look at the shots from the floor and from three-point range, MTSU was actually better than Houston, statistically speaking. They go 46.9% from the field in this game compared to 40.7% for Houston, and they go 39.3% from three-point range, while Houston goes an even 30%. So as far as shooting numbers are concerned, and really looking at the stats in general in this game, it was pretty evenly matched, kind of like what we saw in the first half. So a lot of people may just be looking at the box score and asking, wait a second, MTSU was able to hang with them for a large portion of the game. The stats are pretty even. So what was the big separating factor? Then you dig a little bit deeper and you realize probably what the separating factor was, and that was turnovers. MTSU committing 19 while Houston committed 6 in this game. What did we mention earlier about a Kelvin Sampson team? They are not going to give up many opportunities, and they're very disciplined with the basketball. They rarely turn it over, and again, that really reared its head here. And MTSU, they've been, not to say turnover prone, but they've had games where they've committed turnovers in bunches, and that kind of happened here. It was the big separation. Houston got a lot of easy scoring opportunities because they were capitalizing on fast breaks from MTSU turnovers, and Houston, they run the fast break just about as good as any team that you'll find in the country, and it really helped them again here. So they were able to use that to their advantage and kind of get ahead of the men's basketball team. And really, that's been a problem not just for the men's team, but also the Lady Raiders. Their turnover frequency and the amount of turnovers they commit in a game, it's cost them before, and it really cost them here. So, it's a tough pill to swallow if you're a Blue Raider fan or if you're one of the members of the team or maybe even Coach McDevitt himself. But I think what you can take away from that is that our problem is self-inflicted. We can fix that if we take the right initiative. If we do the right things, we can fix that issue. We don't have to linger on wondering what our ceiling is or wondering, okay, is this as good as it's going to get and we're still not good enough? No. You've got something that is an obvious issue, but it can be fixed, and I think, again, that's something else that MTSU certainly can do as time goes on. We'll see if, as the season progresses, whether or not this was more of a one-game aberration or something that kind of becomes more of a familiar trend in conference play. Time will tell on that front. Big night for Kamari Lands in this game. He goes for 18 points, 4 3-point shots. Again, going back to that shooting from downtown, MTSU had it in spades in this game. And Alec Oglesby, 12 points and 3 3-pointers of his own. I think the biggest takeaway that I had watching this game and looking back at the film is that MTSU, to me, is on the doorstep of being in the conversation, which is a roundabout way of saying it, but they're a team that can play spoiler for some of these bigger programs, maybe even in March if they play up to their potential. Again, like I just said about the turnovers, there are things that will need to be fixed and things that obviously have to be improved on, but you saw it in this game, and you saw it at points in the Michigan game. MTSU can hang with these big programs. Even for a limited amount of time, they can hang with them. And those are the kinds of things you like to see from a team at this juncture in the season, because it means when it does get into that postseason time of the year, you've got the opportunity to spring some upsets, one, if you get into the tournament, and be more battle-tested and adversity-tested when you get into the conference tournament. So I think these games, people may ask, well, why do you schedule such a tough opponent in out of conference play? Well, I think a big reason is to test your team and to also find out what kind of team you have. And we saw it once again right here. MTSU learned a little bit more about themselves. They got drugged to deep water, and they responded, and they lost by less than 10 points to the number 8 team in the country. And I don't know if that's being said enough. That's a really impressive achievement. We've seen Houston, we've seen Michigan blow teams out of the water this year, and MTSU has hung with both teams pretty well. So it says a lot about this men's team, what their capability is, and what their potential is if they keep playing well. So really impressive job by the men's team, and excited to see where they go forward as they go into conference play. Speaking of conference play, Conference USA play kicking into high gear for MTSU this Friday when the Blue Raiders host Louisiana Tech at the Murphy Center at 6:30 p.m. Of course, voice of the Blue Raiders, Chip Walters, will be on the call right here on the Good Neighbor Network, WGNS, with pregame at 6. This is going to be a huge game for MTSU when it comes to solidifying their aspirations of making a run at the conference title. Louisiana Tech is no slouch this year. If you haven't read up on them, they have an 8-4 record, already have a conference win over UTEP, much like MTSU has the conference win over Kennesaw State, and they've beaten some solid opponents this year. A.J. Bates, D.J. Dudley, two fantastic offensive threats, each of them averaging over 12 points per game. This is one of those games that MTSU is going to have to lock in for and have their full attention on because Louisiana Tech certainly has upset capabilities. They have the potential to do some damage offensively, and MTSU has got to be ready for whatever Louisiana Tech throws at them. But, I was looking at the schedule. If MTSU does win this game, you start to ask the question of what can they do with the rest of their conference schedule. Now, there's no way to fully answer that question right now, but considering you already have a win over Kennesaw State and you have some of the best odds to win the conference title, the brass ring, so to speak, is right there for the taking. So I think MTSU, obviously you don't want to look ahead and you can't look ahead. That's not the job of the players. That's the job of us media types to see, hey, well, if this happens and this happens, something else could happen. But I think it is important to note that because if MTSU gets off to a 2-0 conference start, they've already got these close games against really good teams. They've got the potential to really be competitive in Conference USA and challenge some of the best teams like New Mexico State, like Liberty, whoever the case may be. Upcoming schedule for the men's basketball team. They're at home against Sam Houston. That's going to be on Sunday, January 4th. Then they go to UTEP in El Paso for a road swing. Then they go a little bit further west to Las Cruces, New Mexico to take on the aforementioned New Mexico State. Then they're at Louisiana Tech, so they got to play Louisiana Tech once again. And then at home versus Missouri State. So, it's evident for anyone to see, but it is going to be conference play from here on out for MTSU. But that just means that every single game you play and every win you get is that much more valuable. Because at this point, you're fighting not just for a win, but you're fighting for a spot in the conference title tournament. So MTSU certainly has that at their disposal. Excited to see how they do on Friday night against Louisiana Tech. We will be back right here on All Sports Talk in just a moment. We're going to talk MTSU women's basketball, some upcoming games, and we'll start our preview of the college football playoff quarterfinal. Big games coming up ahead, folks. All of that on the way right here on All Sports Talk.
In Rutherford County, you know how much it means to have neighbors you can count on. I'm State Farm Agent Andy Wommel, here to help life go right when you combine home and auto insurance. Call me today at 615-890-0850 and let me save you money and time. Your home, your auto, together they're where life happens. I'm State Farm Agent Andy Wommel. It's smart to protect them together to help life go right. Give me a call at 615-890-0850 and let me help you save by combining your home and auto.
Jennings & Ayers Funeral Home has served Murfreesboro families with compassion and care since 1880. As a family-owned funeral home, we're committed to honoring every life with dignity through traditional services, cremation options, and pre-planning that gives you peace of mind. For over 140 years, we've been here when it matters most. Visit JenningsandAyers.com. Jennings & Ayers Funeral Home, honoring life and comforting families since 1880.
Whether you need general vehicle upkeep and maintenance or a complete vehicle overhaul, Hall's Auto Care is here for you. We're locally owned and operated by Greg Hall and have been in business since 2014. You'll get excellent service and trustworthy advice with Hall's Auto Care. A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau. We're ready to help get you safely on the road. Hall's Auto Care, 907 Ridgely Road, just off Broad Street behind Chili's. Online at hallsautocare.net. Hall's Auto Care.
Clark's Auction Company will get you top dollar for your property.
Clark's has a team of experienced auctioneers and realtors who make selling your property simple. Whether you're selling your home, farm, or have an estate to settle, auctions are easy, fast, and profitable. You don't have to worry about the hassle of updates, repairs, or showings, and you'll receive multiple offers on auction day.
Clark's Auction Company will get you top dollar for your property.
Clark's Auction Company, committed to auction excellence.
Sold it to you, 27.5.
When illness or injury turns everyday moments into uphill battles, there are medical professionals who step in with skill, compassion, and unwavering dedication. My name is Joey P. I'm CEO of Murfreesboro Medical Clinic, and we are proud to highlight this month's MMC Heart for Healing recipient.
A grateful patient wrote about a 3-week stay at Ascension St. Thomas Rutherford Hospital. When they were finally allowed to shower, Nurse Michaela Easterwood went above and beyond, washing and styling their hair with such care that Mom had one less worry. Even when she wasn't assigned to them, Michaela used her own breaks to stop by, check in, and bring comfort. Her kindness restored dignity and hope. That's why Michaela Easterwood is our Heart for Healing.
If a doctor, nurse, or other medical professional has made a difference in your life, tell your good neighbor station, WGNS. Nominate them for the MMC Heart for Healing Award and help us recognize the medical heroes in our community. Compassion deserves recognition, and healing begins with the heart.
Right now, the police are working with a couple of accidents out here. No shortage of radar, that's for sure, all over Middle Tennessee, so be careful. Again, lots of radar expected over the next 3 or 4 days. Hey, when you need dependable towing for your car or big truck, make sure you call the professionals here in Middle Tennessee. That would be STR Towing and Recovery. Check them out online. It's easy. Type in strtow.com. I'm Commander Chuck with your on-time traffic.
It's all sports talk from the Good Neighbor Network, FM 1019, 100.5, AM 1450, wgnsradio.com, and Big G TV.
That's right. Welcome back here on All Sports Talk on a Wednesday, December 31st, New Year's Eve edition of All Sports Talk. Dylan Simmons with you, and again, hope you're having a great New Year's Eve evening. I don't know if that's the best way to describe it. Sounds a little bit silly when you say it like that, Eve evening, but you get my drift, right? Hope you're having a great night, and I hope you have a great celebration party, whatever the case may be when it comes to New Year's Eve, however you're enjoying it on this Wednesday night. Glad that you are doing so, and glad that you're with us here on All Sports Talk. We got a lot more fun coming up on the way as well. I am going to be celebrating New Year's Eve by watching Miami, Ohio State tonight. We'll get more into that a little bit later, but it's obviously going to be a big night for me as far as that goes, and maybe for some of you other big college football fans out there. But before we get to that, we've got more college athletics to discuss, and that starts with MTSU women's basketball. Women's basketball team last playing on December 20th. Again, that was about 3 days or so after our last show. Women's basketball team got a big win over Wichita State before Christmas back on the 20th. I think this is a game that people may have overlooked or maybe even not really thought about as much, because at that point you're kind of in the Christmas season, you're in the Christmas rush, so to speak. Of course, if you're a Lady Raider fan, then you're certainly not going to forget about any MTSU game. But if you hadn't been keeping track as much, you may have overlooked this game and all the hullabaloo. I think that's hullabaloo, I think is how you say it. But either way, this was a very big win for MTSU women's basketball. And despite what you might think about Wichita State's record, that's a really tough environment to go in to and win, and MTSU was able to do so. Savannah Davis ends up getting 10 points in this game. Macy Pfeiffer and Blair Bogus each go for 8 points. The defense really showed big progression in this game for MTSU. 19 turnovers forced on Wichita State, and doing enough defensively to hold off a big charge from Wichita State as well. Wichita State kind of started to come back towards the end. MTSU did just enough to hold them off in a really close 2-point victory. I think that this was a great stride defensively for this basketball team. What they were able to do to hold off Wichita State, I think they're starting to come together a little bit more, recognize some things, play more disciplined basketball on the back end, and it's really helped them. And all these turnovers that they forced on the road in Kansas definitely are a demonstration of that. Now, if you're talking about a recurring issue, so to speak, turnovers were still a thing for the Lady Raiders in this game. They end up committing 16. But the fact is that they did not have a lot, or at least have the most in this game. And I think that shows that there may be some headway here as far as turning the tide on that, at least to some degree. Obviously, the turnovers are something that will need to be cleaned up, kind of like what we saw with the men's team against Houston. But the fact that you forced more and that the disparity wasn't as bad as it usually is, I think that's a great testament to maybe the defensive strides and the more efficient offensive strides that MTSU might be making. So a big win for MTSU at Kennesaw. When you look ahead to the rest of their schedule, they've got some really big tests coming up, and I would say that in many ways this is definitely a prove-it time for the Lady Raiders, and I would guess that Coach Rick Insel's going to agree with that as well. I'm sure he's already talked to the team about this is the time where we have to kick it into high gear. We have to really start to solidify ourselves and put our best foot forward as far as making headway for a potential conference championship, which is the big goal at the end of the day. As important as your games are early in the season, there is a different kind of importance and impact that comes when you get into conference play and specifically CUSA play for MTSU. And I think that no matter what basketball coach you are or whether you're a fan or whatever the case may be, you can understand what I'm talking about. There's a certain level of importance, a certain level of significance that comes with playing in these kinds of games. MTSU's next test, they go to Kennesaw State on Friday, this Friday, January 2nd, which is a team that has not played since December 14th against Life University. So MTSU, by the way, has not played, like I mentioned, since the 20th. So you've got two teams. Each of them will have had about a 2-week break, give or take. In Kennesaw's case, it's more like 2.5 weeks. So the question has to be asked, will rust play somewhat of an issue in this game? I'm not sure it will, but you have to at least put that question out there. How will these ladies respond to all this time off? Obviously, both for MTSU and I'd say for Kennesaw State as well, they've been keeping their players dialed in. I've seen plenty of social media posts from whoever the case may be, Mad Insel, the women's basketball team, about how they are looking to stay dialed in this juncture. But who is that going to play any sort of factor here, I guess is what I'm trying to ask. Kennesaw 7-4 on the year. They have wins over Tennessee Tech and Georgia State. Now, if you'll remember, MTSU lost to Tennessee Tech earlier in the season, mainly because of turnovers. Kennesaw State beat them by, I believe, a couple points earlier this season. So that's a comparable team that you can match up. Kennesaw got the win there. They've also got a force in Kiara Berry. She averages 15 points per game right now, and she is great in the paint. Pair her along with Shania Nichols, who's a phenomenal guard. She's got 22 three-pointers on the season. They're going to be a tough team to handle for MTSU. And we talked about the defensive strides that the Lady Raiders had made against Wichita State. Well, this is going to be a real test of that. How much or how good were the strides that you made, and will you have enough to handle this tough test against Kennesaw State? Because they're going to bring it. They certainly have an offense that has the capability to match up to MTSU, and the Lady Raiders have to be ready to handle that. MTSU, I think, bottom line, don't want to give away free possessions here. They got to find a way to clamp down on defense and make sure that they can withstand any kind of opening blow, because we know, I think it's pretty safe to say, Kennesaw State's going to want to start fast in this game. If they sit back and let Kennesaw get what they want, it's going to be a long night on the road for MTSU, and it might be a deficit that they're not quite able to overcome, so it is imperative for MTSU to play well defensively and hold that off. This game really serves, I think, as a nexus point for this Lady Raider team, because when you look at conference play coming up, they've got a lot of big tests. Who you are as a team and what you're going to become can largely be determined by how you play through those first couple games in conference play, because you keep belief in your team if you win those games, that we can make a run, we can be competitive in the conference tournament. And it hasn't been a completely ideal start for MTSU, I would say, but they certainly have all of their goals in front of them. I'm sure that, both Coach Rick Insel and Matt Insel would tell you that. And with that in mind, they have the potential to still do some really special things, win a conference tournament, and win their way into the NCAA women's basketball tournament. So this is a big game for Coach Insel and his squad in this conference opener coming up on Friday in Kennesaw, Georgia. I'm very, very interested to see how MTSU looks in this game and how they come out swinging, so to speak, in this one. So should be a fun contest for MTSU women's basketball, and should be a fun portion of the season with conference play coming up in CUSA. Now, the college football playoff quarterfinal round is here, and for all of us college football fans, it's almost like Christmas all over again. I don't know if there's any better time in the year as far as sports goes for me than right now. This is everything you ask for. Bowl season's in full swing. Vanderbilt already played Iowa earlier today. Iowa did defeat Vanderbilt 34-27 if you're just learning that information for the first time. I think Texas and Michigan are playing right now, and in just a little bit, Miami and Ohio State will kick off the quarterfinal round of the CFP in the Goodyear Cotton Bowl Classic. We've got Miami, Ohio State, Texas Tech, Oregon, Alabama, Indiana, and Georgia Ole Miss are your 4 quarterfinal matchups. We're going to preview each of them. We will start with 2nd-seeded Ohio State versus 10th-seeded Miami in the Cotton Bowl. Now, obviously, with my fandom, I'm going to have a big attachment to the result of this game. For those who don't know, and I've mentioned a few times on the show, but I am, in fact, a Hurricanes fan, so I'll try not to be super biased in this one, so to speak. But I will definitely kind of give my perspective on what I've seen from the Hurricanes this year. But I think this is the magic of the expanded playoff for matchups like this. And I know people have their qualms with expanding the CFP, but I think this is a great example of how expanding it really adds a level of importance and intrigue to these games that may not have otherwise been there. Obviously, you're not going to get any opt-outs in the playoffs, so this is, I think, going to be a really, really fun matchup, and this is a great example of why I think the expanded playoff is a really, really cool mechanism in our modern day. As far as these two teams go, you've got two of the best teams when it comes to line of scrimmage play. Maybe the two best left in the CFP field, and that's saying a lot. Miami, of course, is coming off that massive win over 7th-seeded Texas A&M on the 20th in College Station, and I would say it's the biggest win. I've heard other people say this as well. Probably the biggest win for Miami since the 2002 season when they went to the national championship game against who else but Ohio State. A little bit of backstory and history. And if you ask locals down there in Coral Gables in South Florida, they'll tell you, just because it's been 23 years does not mean that that game does not still mean something to those fans. They still are salty, as the kids would say, and they're still upset about it. And they would love to see Miami get some revenge. So it's going to add just that much more emotion, I think, to the impact of this game. As for Ohio State, coming off a tough loss over top-seeded Indiana in the Big Ten title game, which at this point has been nearly a month, which I think is another question to be asked about the structure of the college football calendar. But all that being said, their offensive line got pretty well manhandled in that game, and I think Buckeyes fans would probably admit that. They gave up, I believe, 5 sacks to Indiana. Julian Sayin went down a lot, and they didn't get a lot points-wise either. They only scored 10 points against a stingy Hoosiers defense, which, in my opinion, matches up pretty similar to Miami's. This game screams low-scoring slugfest to me, and I'm going to be stunned if this goes above 40 combined points. Right now, 40.5 is the total. I would take the under, if that's any perspective. This game, to me, comes down to which quarterback is the most consistent and is the biggest difference maker. This is going to be a quarterback game. I really doubt that either running game is going to get going. You're talking about two of, I think, the top 5 rushing defenses in the country right here, so I don't see much happening from either side on that one. I don't expect Bo Jackson or Mark Fletcher to get a lot of headway. If they do, it's going to be pretty surprising, but I don't expect that to happen. So it's going to come down to one of either Carson Beck or Julian Sayin. Now, a lot of people have had their feelings about Carson Beck and what he's been this season. Some have said that Julian Sayin might be a little bit overrated. Some think that he hasn't really been tested outside of maybe Indiana this year. A lot of people think Carson Beck is an interception machine waiting to happen. There's evidence and disevidence, if that's a word, that could be used for both of those claims. I just think that whoever makes the bigger plays and becomes the difference maker really wins this game for their team, because to me, there's going to be a lot more throwing of the football than we saw certainly in the Miami-Texas A&M game. And, I think the pass rush for both sides will make an impact, but I think it's going to come down to which quarterback has the clearer head, has better mental perspective on this game. And that's going to be the determining factor. And I'm not going to say who I think is going to win this game because, to be quite honest with you, I don't know. To me, this is kind of a toss-up. I could see this one going either way. So I'm not going to give an official pick because either way I'm going to be in a tough spot considering who I root for. But I will just say that no matter who you choose, I understand your selection. Ohio State is a 9.5-point favorite. It seems like most of the country is going with Ohio State. But I do disagree with the notion that this game is going to be just an absolute blowout. A lot of people are thinking that Ohio State's just going to run away with this game. I don't see that happening purely because of Miami's defense. Now, could I be wrong? Absolutely. Ohio State could go out there and win by 40, but I could also see a situation where Miami wins by 10 or 13 points, and that may seem crazy to some folks, but I've seen Miami compete against some of the top teams this year that they've played, Notre Dame and Texas A&M. One thing I'll say about Miami is that they always seem to show out for these really big games. The games against the top opponents, whether it's Notre Dame, Texas A&M, Florida State, whoever. If an opponent is of a certain quality and a certain caliber, I think it motivates this team mentally to get out there and perform. And I'm not trying to diminish Louisville and SMU when I say this, but I think when Miami got into conference play, they kind of took opponents for granted and took for granted the fact they weren't playing like top-level opponents and weren't in the eyes of the country anymore. And I think that did diminish their play just a little bit. So I feel like they're going to be ready to play in this one. They're going to be dialed in, and they're going to have all the ingredients to go out there and win. But saying they're going to win and actually winning are two different things. So it's going to be a fun game. I think this is going to be an instant classic. I think this is going to be a game that we're going to be talking about for years to come. That's a big statement to make. I understand that. But I don't know, man. I just have a feeling that no matter what happens, this is a game that somebody is going to go home stunned, or maybe both sides go home stunned, and we get memories that we talk about for a lifetime. It's going to be a heck of a way to end out 2025 as far as football is concerned. That coming up tonight at 6:30 p.m., if I'm not mistaken, Central Time, should be a good one in the Cotton Bowl. When we come back, we'll have more college football playoff quarterfinal previews. Texas Tech, Oregon, Georgia, Ole Miss, and Alabama, Indiana. All that and more coming up soon right here on All Sports Talk.
This is Chip Walters, and I'm honored to be your 2024 MTAR Realtor of the Year. I'm with Exit Realty Bob Lamb & Associates, and like many of you, I've seen the real estate market shift and change. People often ask, Chip, what's really going on? Well, that's a great question, and I believe in answering with solid, factual data. So let's cut through some of the noise. I invite you to reach out. Let's have a conversation about your real estate goals and the current market trends in your neighborhood. You can find all my contact information at choosechip.net.
Sign-ups are going on right now for First Shot's Winter Basketball League in Rutherford County. Coach Andy Herzer guides kids to sharpen basketball skills and build teamwork through exciting clinics and games. Since 2003, First Shot has empowered youth to grow in mind, spirit, and body. Don't miss out. Join the fun and develop lifelong skills. Visit FirstShotTN.org today and register for the Winter Basketball League. That's FirstShotTN.org.
Coming into a sizable amount of money is one kind of surprise. But a rough Tennessee winter is another one. Folks in this area know the importance of having their HVAC checkup before winter hits. People also know the importance of Roscoe Brown checking their plumbing system too. Frozen pipes, broken water heaters, just a few of the problems from Old Man Winter. Set up a winter plumbing and HVAC checkup at Roscoe Brown.
Roscoe Brown.
RoscoeBrown.com.
Are you paying too much for home and auto insurance? Let the experienced professionals at My Team Insurance in Murfreesboro help. With decades of experience, their team provides superior customer service, low rates, and a clear understanding of your coverage needs. Whether it's home, auto, health, business, or life insurance, My Team Insurance makes protection simple and affordable. Visit myteaminsurance.com today. That's myteaminsurance.com. My Team Insurance, proud supporters of the Blue Raiders.
Next on All Sports Talk, it's the Blue Raider Insider Report with Chip Walters of Exit Realty, Bob Lamb & Associates.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. And on this final day of 2025, it's an opportunity to look back and what was the 2025 year in review. 2025 opened with a familiar theme, championship expectations, and several programs delivered. Women's basketball once again set the tone for the department, adding another Conference USA title and extending the program's reputation as one of the league's gold standards. Men's tennis kept its dynasty rolling too, capturing its sixth straight Conference USA championship, a run that is unmatched in conference play. Across the board, 6 MTSU teams reached postseason play. Men's and women's basketball. The Blue Raider men, of course, involved in that unbelievable triple overtime game with Chattanooga in the NIT. Men's and women's tennis. Men's cross country. Women's cross country, while 6 individuals advanced to NCAA postseason events. It was a year that showcased both depth and consistency. Off the field, MTSU made one of its biggest facility leaps in decades with the grand opening of the Stephen and Denise Smith Student Athlete Performance Center. The $66,085,000 square foot complex opened July 30th and immediately became the crown jewel of the Build Blue campaign. Floyd Stadium also received a new state-of-the-art turf system in June, continuing the modernization of the football footprint. Speaking of football, 2025 was a bit of a turbulent ride. Derek Mason's first full season brought growing pains, including staff changes late in the year and a tough loss to FIU that sparked questions about the program's direction. Since then, Mason has reshaped his offensive staff, hiring Anthony Selfo as offensive coordinator and Christopher Brown to lead the offensive line as the Blue Raiders look to reset their heading moving into 2026. On the hardwood, men's basketball delivered some of the year's most dramatic moments. Kamari Lance offered a career night in a one-point win over Kennesaw State, and the Blue Raiders women closed the year with a gritty 46-45 road win at Wichita State. They also picked up a December victory over Memphis inside the Glass House, one of the program's signature non-conference wins of the season. Women's basketball battled through injuries and a tough SEC slate, but still produced standout performances, including that late December win over Wichita State and a breakout performance from Macy Pfeiffer, who earned Conference USA Freshman of the Week. Track and field and cross country continued their tradition of excellence, with multiple athletes earning weekly conference honors and several PRs in early season meets. The program also celebrated major postseason recognition of several student athletes. In the classroom, MTSU posted a department-wide graduation rate of 94%, the highest in Conference USA, with 7 programs recording a perfect 100% score. Football's 92% GSR ranked first in the league and tied for 15th nationally, a major point of pride during a challenging on-field season. And finally, the Bill Blue campaign continued to surge past expectations, climbing to $22.7 million raised toward its revised $25 million goal. The momentum behind facilities, fundraising, and competitive success paints a clear picture. 2025 was a year of transition, investment, and foundation building for the next era of Blue Raider athletics. And that's it for today, and that's it for this year. We'll talk to you in 2026 right here on the Big G WGNS.
It's all sports talk from the Good Neighbor Network, FM 1019, 100.5, AM 1450, wgnsradio.com, and Big G TV.
Welcome back here on All Sports Talk. We've reached the final segment of our show, the final All Sports Talk segment of 2025. Oh my goodness, feels like it was just yesterday that we started. I mean, it's only been a month for me, but you get my drift, right? It has really flown by, and, I talked to my, friends and family about this, but it seems as though as you get older, the years go by faster, and I've heard that from a lot of people, and I think it starts to ring true at a certain point. So I'm right there with you if you're one who believes that. But I think we got a great thing that we can do to end out the show here, and that's talk about college football and the CFP quarterfinals. It'll be a great way to end out the year with a bang and then get looking ahead to 2026. So let's get right into it with the Capital One Orange Bowl. Number 4 seeded Texas Tech takes on 5th seeded Oregon. And to be honest with you, I don't know if this game is getting nearly the love it should be. And this is a question that I ask, and maybe I'm wrong in asking this, but does it seem like no one is talking about Texas Tech? I mean, the Red Raiders have the number 3 scoring defense in the country, number 2 scoring offense. There are very few teams in the playoff that have that combination outside of, I guess, IU and Ohio State. And I think the Red Raiders get a bit of a bad rap just because they're in the Big 12. And I don't think that's the way it should be. I don't think people view the Big 12 as a super elite conference. And I know they're not the Big 10 and the SEC, but, that's not to say Texas Tech can't be as good as all of those teams. They have destroyed, they have demolished basically everyone they played outside of Arizona State, who they had their backup quarterback in when they played. So, it's kind of an asterisk loss for Texas Tech. And when you look at who they have beaten, they manhandled, dominated a really good Utah team on the road that lost just 2 games this year. And they beat a team that went 11-1 in the regular season, BYU, by 3 scores, and then did it again, even worse, in the Big 12 championship game. So they beat a team of that caliber twice that has gone on to have a 12-2 season and won the Pop-Tarts Bowl. So this Texas Tech team is for real. I just want people to know that. Baron Morton, Jacob Rodriguez, the list goes on and on as far as the superstars that team has. Oregon has been sort of a silent warrior this season, in my opinion. I think after the Indiana loss, people kind of just forgot about them to some degree. Oregon worked in the shadows a little bit more. Towards the end of the year, they got a little more spotlight. They got the win over USC, got another one against Washington, got that really gutsy road win against Iowa, and they end up going 11-1 in the Big Ten. So there's only so much silence you can have being an 11-1 Big Ten team. Dante Moore, obviously, he's been excellent all season. The offense is hard for anyone to stop. Can't speak right now. Oregon has the number 9 scoring offense in the country. And Dan Lanning, he's a guy that mentality-wise, I just love. I love watching him coach. I love watching him direct a game because it's about as fun as anything else that you can imagine. I think this game comes down to turnovers. Both offenses are going to get their production in this game. When you look for turnovers, though, and for big difference-making plays, I think Texas Tech is your team. They're number 2 or tied for second in turnover margin. Oregon is down at 29th. So Texas Tech certainly has that in their back pocket. I think they're going to get a couple picks, maybe a couple fumbles against Oregon. That's a big statement to make. Oregon's going to have to protect the football for me to see them winning this football game, and I just don't know if they will. So give me Texas Tech to win this one 34-21 and put some respect on the Red Raiders' name. All right, we're going to skip ahead to the Sugar Bowl. 3rd-seeded Georgia takes on 6th-seeded Ole Miss. Of all the games in round 1, this is the one that I feel the most confident about. I think Georgia right now is playing at as high a level as any team in the country. They dominated Texas. They manhandled Alabama in the SEC championship game. And as far as putting together a late-season run, I don't think anyone has looked better later in the year than Georgia has with what they've been doing. Teams have had opportunities to take Georgia out. Tennessee had a chance at Elon. They lost. Auburn was up 10 at Jordan-Hare. They lost. Ole Miss was up by 9 in the fourth quarter in Athens. They lost to Georgia. And Florida was in a brawl with Georgia. They couldn't win either. Somehow, when the job and when the game is on the line, Georgia finds a way to get it done. I know that Oklahoma has the motto hard to kill, but I think that really should be Georgia's moniker because they are hard to kill. They are hard to get rid of, folks. And I think when you look at Gunnar Stockton, this running game, this defense, they're not the flashiest team on earth, but they just find a way. And they found a way again in the SEC this year, picking up another SEC title. Georgia just gets the job done. Maybe that should be their motto. Who knows? Ole Miss is an interesting case. Ole Miss, offensively, they leap off the page. Number 10 in scoring offense in the country, number 3 in passing offense. And when you talk about explosivity at the quarterback position, they've got a supernova named Trinidad Chambliss, former Ferris University D2 quarterback of the year, and bringing that stuff to D1, to the SEC, and having no issue having it translate. So it just goes to show you that superstars can be built at these lower levels. You have to give this team credit for overcoming all of the adversity of Lane Kiffin's saga and still finding ways to win and getting into the CFP. Pete Golding, he's got this team now, and he's got them in position to make a deep run. Obviously, they manhandled Tulane a week and a half ago, but this is a horse from a different fire department, folks. My biggest question in this game is the Ole Miss defense. They've been suspect many times this year. Georgia's not a team that you want to let get some form of momentum because they can make you pay and make you pay fast. I don't feel good about Ole Miss if they have to try to win another drag race style game. And here's the reason I'm picking Georgia. I think Georgia right now has more ways to win. They can win slugfest, they can win with defensive domination, or they can win a drag race if the opportunity arises. Pete Golding's going to have to find a way to get this Ole Miss defense into form, or else Georgia, I think, is going to have their way with the Rebels. But either way, it's going to be a very, very interesting, for lack of a better term, game to watch just because of the dynamics and having these two teams already played earlier this season. I understand it was close last time in Athens, but it's been a while. This is a different time of the year, and I think Georgia's going to take this one 35-17. A little bit bold, but I think they win by 3 scores. And lastly, and there's a reason I saved this one for last, the Rose Bowl game. Top-seeded Indiana versus 9th-seeded Alabama. I saved this one for last because I think this should be the national title game, not because of the teams playing in it, but because of the college football fan in myself. Say what you want, but to me, the Rose Bowl should always be the location of the title game. There's something about the San Gabriel Mountains, Pasadena, California, this time of year. It's beautiful, and I think it should always be the location, but that's the fan in me. It's not the way it is. Either way, it's going to be a fun game. All of that being said, what a story Indiana's been this season. Curt Cignetti deserves all the accolades, all of the acclaim that you could ask for the job he's done at IU. Nobody would have thought that in just 2 years, IU goes from a 3-9 team to the number 1 seed in the CFP. Incredible turnaround. That's the Sig effect in full force. Google him. He knows how to win. Just ask him. He'll tell you. The Hoosiers have the number 3 scoring offense, number 2 scoring defense in the country, kind of like that combination we had with Texas Tech earlier. They have dominated teams like Illinois. They won games down to the wire against teams like Penn State. They've gone on the road and beaten top 5 teams like Oregon, and they even upended everybody's favorite to win the championship in Ohio State in the Big Ten title game. And yet, in spite of all of that, I think people are hesitant to give Indiana the respect that they are owed because people are still mentally getting used to the idea that Indiana is an elite football team. And I get it. It's a strange world, but you need to accept it. Indiana really is that good, guys. Now, as for the Tide, they've been a little bit inconsistent. They've been all over the place at points this year, but kind of like Georgia, they found a way to win when it matters the most. They did get manhandled by Georgia in the SEC championship game, but when they've had to have a victory, they have found a way to get it done. They went into Norman against a team they'd lost to earlier in the season. They go out there, face a 17-0 deficit. They come back to win. They go out and beat Georgia on the road when a lot of people thought their CFP hopes were left for dead after the loss to Florida State early in the year. They win. They had that gauntlet in the middle of the season with 4 straight ranked teams. They win all of those games. So Alabama certainly has the capability to win when it matters the most. But I think the question people are asking is how consistent is Alabama really going to be in this game? Weather is thankfully cleared up. Looks like we might be getting those classic Rose Bowl conditions, at least to some degree. I think Indiana's playing like the better team. Alabama certainly has the magic in their back pocket that they always seem to have in these situations, but I don't think they're going to out-execute Indiana. I think overtaking IU in that field is too much right now for even Alabama, and I think Alabama's lack of a run game really hurts them here. They're very one-dimensional, pass first team for sure. I think Indiana's going to take advantage of that. That defense is going to clamp down. I think IU wins by 10 points. Give me Indiana 27-17 to win the Rose Bowl and move on to the semifinal. And that'll do it for this New Year's Eve edition of All Sports Talk. We will be back next week with another episode, our first of 2026. Looking forward to that. But as for all of you, have a great New Year's Eve night. Have a fantastic 2026. We'll see you on the other side. So long and have an electric night.
You're listening to the flagship station for Blue Raiders sports.
Hot 2015 10-5 touchdown, Middle Tennessee.
Play up, bench, Cole. Middle Tennessee football, basketball, and baseball. Yeah, we got them.
You're listening to the flagship station for Blue Raider Athletics.